All right, folks. I am so psyched today to bring on the guy that I've known since 1975, the same damn year as Kiss Alive. And that's my good pal, the one and only TeeBone. TeeBone, welcome to Retro Rewind 85.
Deke, thanks for having me. It's long overdue and look forward to it.
Awesome. And before I forget, I have to thank my friend there for the cool swag. I mean, he does all the artwork and all this shit for my show for free. So probably after this, he'll probably start charging me or send me a pretty big bill. But I appreciate it, my friend. You always
actually the bill is delayed by the Canada Post strike, so it's on its way. It just hasn't got there yet.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I did get it and I just shredded it. But anyway,
fair enough.
Yeah, but so anyways, I wanted to bring TeeBone on today's show because back in 1985, we were 18 that year. And a lot of music was coming out. And two of the albums that came out that I knew I had on album, but I also knew that TeeBone had purchased on cassette because he was a cassette tape guy. Whereas Kiss Asylum and Night Ranger was Seven Wishes. And boy, I've been looking forward to Night Ranger's review with you since 1985. But anyways, we're going to start off with Kiss Asylum.
I'm not sure if you're going to be disappointed or not. But anyway.
I don't care. It's just about the conversation.
Right on.
I don't know. I have no idea even where your head's at it with.
Neither do I.
And just to give everybody a heads up, we're going to go through each album. We're going to talk about. We're going to score it out of 10 each record, Asylum and Seven Wishes out of 10, and that'll include the packaging, the production, the songs, everything. And at the end, we'll each tell each other our scores, and we'll see if we declare a winner. Might be a tie, might be a landslide, but we'll see how it goes. So anyways, up first, buddy, Kiss Asylum. What are you thinking?
Well, first I just got a couple of very minor general notes that I thought was interesting comparables between the two records, considering Kiss and Night Ranger don't have a whole lot in common, but obviously both albums are from 1985. Both albums and both bands feature two lead singers, which is kind of a neat thing, which I don't think we did that on purpose, but that's kind of neat. And on the album, they kind of almost always, with some exceptions, alternate who sings the song as you go through the album on both albums, which I thought, as I'm listening to them, I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. The big difference is Night Ranger, sings their ballads from the heart, and Kiss sings more from the groin. But anyway, Kiss Asylum, let's get to it.
All right.
One thing, just off the top, just as a general comment on the record, I thought it's produced very loud, which isn't a bad thing, but I noticed that when I was flipping back and forth between the two on streaming, it was like Asylum was way louder. And just a neat thing I thought about the album cover is, and I'm sure you know this, but I'm not sure all the viewers would know this, but the lip colors are all the same. The lip color is the same as the aura colors on the solo albums. So Bruce gets Ace's aura color and Eric gets Peter's, but kind of a neat album. It's very 80s, but very pastel, almost Miami Vice-ish. Actually, around the same time that Gene appeared on Miami Vice, coincidentally
enough. True that, and you're right about the lip color. I mean, that's pretty interesting. And there's Gene and Paul digging at Ace and Peter by slapping on the red lipstick on the two non-original guys. But you know what? There'll be more of that conversation as we go along in this record. But anyways, Asylum was released September 16th, 1985. On the U.S. Billboard charts, it got to number 20 in Canada. It got to, believe it or not, number 54. Yet, you think, well, number 54, that's not too good. But back in 85, everybody was selling records, and it's still certified gold in both countries. The 10 tracks, and the cover is basically almost like, they did a few of these kind of covers. They did Dynasty. What was the other one? Creatures of the Night, of course, with the makeups and stuff. But they kind of went back to, hey, we're old in 1985, yet we can still as TeeBone says, write songs from the groin. So first song up, King of the Mountain. What are your thoughts there, Pally?
I like the guitar work. It's a good listen. I really like the solo and the lead up to it. Actually, this is Bruce's first full record with the band, right? I think he played a couple solos or a couple songs or something on Animalize, but yeah, he's debuting on here, and he seems to be looking to make a mark for himself, and I think he kind of does. This song I feel is pretty well put together. Later on, I feel we'll get to it, but I feel like there's some rushness sometimes through the rest of the album. But yeah, I like this song. It's got a good groove. It's got a good chorus. Stanley's voice sounds fantastic, and yeah, it's a pretty decent song for me.
Cool.
For a Kiss song.
For a Kiss song. There we go. I like it. Right out of the gate, you get Eric Carr going ballistic on his drum set.
Yes.
And he's basically laying down the law with his drumming. And the song was written by Stanley, Bruce Kulick, and Desmond Child. And as you know, Desmond Child, as TeeBone alluded to on the Animalize album, with Kulick playing on it, Desmond Child co-wrote Heaven's on Fire. So obviously Stanley brought him back into the fold, saying, we need hits. We need hits. King of the Mountain is a little bit too heavy of a hit, but good track. I like how after the guitar solo, the song dials down a bit and then it builds back up. And yeah, you know what? It's a really good opener.
Solid opener.
Solid opener. Yeah. You hear it. Let's put it that way. Now we come up with a good old Gene tune. Any way you slice it. What are you thinking?
Oh, Gene. Actually, it's a very cool riff. When the first kicks in, I think it sounds familiar. I can't place it. I really struggled. I really wish I could have placed what I was thinking. There's another Gene song coming up where I could place what I was thinking there, where I felt like there was not a homage, but something similar going on. So musically, I kind of like the song. Bruce Kulick's guitar work is great. Lyrically, I gotta admit, as a 57, almost 58-year-old guy, it's a little hard to take. Simmons singing about sex, which he always sings about, and inappropriately aged women. Ain't your mother's little daughter anymore. Can't stay innocent forever. What I'm thinking can land me in jail. Jesus, Gene, these are your lyrics. But it is 1985. Let's remember.
So, it is 1985. That's right. Yeah.
One thing, and I don't know why I wrote this on this song. I guess I wrote down their ages, because I'm like, Gene was 36 when this album was released.
Yep.
Stanley was about 33. Well, what I found interesting was that Kulick's 31 and Carr is 35 when this album comes out. I didn't realize those guys were that old at that time. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize they were so close in age. So found that kind of interesting. And then I thought it was neat that they did the kind of the Ice Cream Man bluesy ending at the end.
Yeah.
Like, had to put a bow on it. Anyway.
Yeah,
so musically, I pretty cool song. Lyrically, I'm a little here. Although Gene sounds good Gene voice singing it.
And that's the thing. People rip on the guy for his 80s stuff. Yeah, he's got a lot of cornholio, goofy lyrics. I get that. I totally understand that. But I was actually surprised when he, by any way you slice it. It's just a good rocker. I like the pre-chorus going into the chorus, and it's like you said, I like how when he sings in that chill vibe, he's not going, oh yeah, he's like, he's singing, he's actually singing. And, I always say, and I'll say it to my grave, I think some of his best singing on any Kiss record was on Creatures of the Night. And if you don't believe me, just check out Saints and Sinners. And right there, like he'll throw down some good vocals. So we kick back into the third track, which is Who Wants to Be Lonely, another song written obviously by Paul Stanley with Desmond Child and John I can't even pronounce his name, Biovior or something like that. He was in the Plasmatics anyways.
I'm glad you're doing that, not me.
Yeah, no, edit. But anyways, it was written with the guy from the Plasmatics, and he played bass on it. Gene had the day off from Who Wants to Be Lonely. So what do you think of that tune?
Well, I mean, I can, like, Desmond writes on this tune, right?
Yeah.
Child has his fingerprints on this one. I
Yeah.
mean, it's got that single vibe to it, you know, like it must have been released as a single, right? I didn't do enough homework to know that, but I would have assumed they would have released this as a single.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, the funny thing is, you know, they did 3 videos for this record. They did Who Wants to Be Lonely,
Okay.
All Night,
Tears Are Falling.
Tears Are Falling. And you know what I realized about all 3 videos is all the girls in those videos are probably grandmothers now. So carry on.
Hey, look, there's Grandma. Like, one thing that jumps out at me is when you just think of the melody in your head, when you kind of forget what the song sounds like and the song kicks in, it's actually a pretty heavy guitar riff. You know, when I think of the Who Wants to Be Lonely, like I forget how heavy the guitar riff sounds coming in, which is kind of a neat balance, I guess. It's a well put together song. It's a well written song. If you got Desmond Child in there, it's gonna, you know, have the catchy hooks and stuff in there. So, like, it's not a song I'm going to go back to over and over again, but it's a well put together song. Stanley sings it well, and yeah, that's about it. Akulik's solo is pretty cool in a mellower song. So yeah, it's hard to call it a mellower song because it has such heavy guitar.
Yeah, it's I agree. You know, it's a good rock track. I mean, it's got a good chorus. I'm surprised it didn't really climb the charts because a lot of those kind of mid-tempo-ish rock tunes back then were, especially with a video kicking along with it, you would think it would have done better, but for some crazy reason the public were probably going, you know, it's Kiss and it's Motley Crue, it's Rat. I mean, they had all these young guys under them, right? Bon Jovi was just bubbling under, waiting to explode it a year later. Like, you know, and Gene and Paul, they must have been going through a fucking midlife crisis in 1985. Gotta get on MTV, blah blah, the money's not rolling in, blah blah, what do we do, right? They don't come across that way in 2025. But I shit you not, in 1985, I bet you there was a bit of a freak out. And I'm going to get into some stuff at the end of this Asylum review about concert attendances and whatnot. But anyways.
Actually, before we jump into the next tune, I just wanted to mention something I kind of missed on my notes here about it's a neat thing the way, like, Carr is an awesome drummer, obviously. And but on the Stanley songs, all of them but one I found on this album. And when I think back, there's others as well, like Heaven's on Fire. He doesn't like when it's a Stanley chorus and the bigger chorus songs that Stanley sings, he doesn't just groove through the chorus with like the hi-hat or the ride cymbal. He takes the hi-hat and the ride cymbal almost completely out and just plays, you know what I mean? Like, he's playing very rhythmic through the Stanley songs, it seems like. It's, I don't know. I thought that was kind of neat. I was like, what? Why do the Stanley choruses all sound different than the Simmons choruses? But anyway, you have to go back and listen to it. But I don't know. I thought that was kind of neat, and I just wanted to mention it.
And you know what? He did that. You know, when you say his drumming like that, he also did that on similar style on Thrills in the Night off Analyze.
Yeah. Heaven's on Fire, too. The chorus of Heaven's on Fire.
Yeah.
It's not like a hi-hat groove kind of thing. It's more of a rhythmic thing. And it kind of gives it a neat feel.
Look who did their homework for this show.
I did a little bit of homework, only some.
Attaboy. See, it's fun to go back.
I brought my pencil.
That's for a show for another time. But anyways, Trial by Fire, another Genie tune. What are you thinking?
I actually kind of like this song. It kind of grew on me the more I listened to it. Gene sings kind of mellow in the verses, like you talked earlier about him singing mellow, and I kind of like that. And he's not all over the place with inappropriate sex in this song, which is also kind of a change of pace for him. So, yeah, it's a decent tune. I think the chorus is actually kind of catchy.
Yep.
And yeah, good solo. I don't know. I like throughout. I could say good solos. Like Kulik's guitar playing is pretty darn good throughout.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you, man. It's a great Gene track, and that's why, I mean, he takes a lot of flack for a lot of shit that in the 80s of him being lazy and this and that and blah blah and writing some goofy songs. But you know what? Trial by Fire is a great track. I mean, it's like he's not throwing any, like you said, any goofy lyrical stuff like, you know, I'm the king bee looking for the hornet's nest and whatever, you know, or whatever he's on about. But I just like that chill vibe when he does that chillness, man. It's
It's actually
pretty good.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. So ending side one is "I'm Alive," written by Stanley Kulik and Desmond Child. What do you think?
This one's very fast. Obviously, it's kind of almost like odd for a Kiss song, especially a Stanley song. This one now, this is why I wanted to mention what I mentioned about Kulik's drumming in Who Wants to Be Lonely, because this one he actually does just maintain a fast boogie groove through the chorus and through the whole song. That's how I would describe it anyway. It's got kind of that fast boogie vibe to it. It's a fun listen. I said it seems like Carr and Kulik have really got to cut loose on this one, and it's probably a fun tune for those guys to play. And I mentioned again that Carr plays more of a straight groove through the chorus. It's the only song on the record that's a Stanley song where he seems to do that.
Yeah, when I hear "I'm Alive," I think of it as the companion song to "Under the Gun" off Animalize. It's got that same kind of tempo. It's got a lot of hot dog and guitar and whatnot. I find it an okay track. It's not one of my favorites, but I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to keep up with the young guys, man. Like they're trying
to. It doesn't seem like their style.
We got the muscle,
Yeah, and, it really doesn't seem like their style.
No, and it's almost like they're trying to play Van Halen, Hot for Teacher, boogie rock, and kind of falls a little flat. So starting off side two is another Gene tune, "Love's a Deadly Weapon," and T-Bone's got murder on his mind, or something like that.
Another pretty fast tune, which I'm actually surprised in a way that "I'm Alive" didn't kick off side two. But then again, you got "Love's a Deadly Weapon," so it's a quick tune. Now the verses here remind me of Motorhead, Ace of Spades. He kind of sings, and then the do 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 do. Anyway, go back and think of that when you listen to it next time. But Gene singing Gene things, and I really really like the guitar solo in this song. But kind of like the last tune, I'm not sure if it kind of fits what I think of as the classic Kiss kind of a song. Actually, I find a little bit of that through this record, that until the voices kick in, they don't necessarily sound like Kiss songs, a lot of them. You know what I mean? Like when you hear Stanley's voice, you know it's Stanley. When you hear Gene's voice, you know it's Gene. But when you just hear the guitar or the drums kick in, you don't necessarily always go, oh, like if I just heard that song as a one-off, I wouldn't be like, oh, Kiss song. But so this is an okay song for me, but it's not. But I do really like the guitar solo.
Yeah, I like it. I just like it. It's just I think it's better than "I'm Alive" by a country mile. I like Simmons' vocals on it. I like the fast-paced boogie. I actually like this kind of Kiss boogie rock because I get what you're saying. It's just not really their thing. But for me, they kind of pull it off. I mean, I just like when it strips down just to the guitar and drums during the solo, and then they build it back up. There's a reason why they never played this song live. They would have been gassed out big time, but it's it's a good hard driving track. I mean, I really like Eric Carr's drumming on it. So what I would consider the best song on this album is the next one, "Tears Are Falling." Your thoughts?
I'm surprised you said that, because I was going to say that. I think I'm sure this is the song that the reason I bought the album. And what I find interesting is every time I hear the first couple bars of that guitar chug at the beginning, I think you got another thing coming is about to kick in. And meanwhile, it's actually a mellower Kiss song, but it just sounds like Judas Priest to me. And then it takes a much mellower turn. But it's a little bit sentimental and romantic, heartbreaky kind of a song. It's almost like Who Wants to Be Lonely. It's almost ballad-like in its lyrics, but still a much heavier song than that. And I actually, when I kind of embarrassed to admit this, but when we first said we were going to do these albums, the only song I remembered for sure that was off this album was that song, "Tears Are Falling." I had to go back and listen and then go, oh yeah, right, this song. Oh yeah, right, this song. But I knew this song was from this record.
Well, that's what happened when Big Al sold off your whole cassette collection. So I totally get that. That's an inside joke, folks. But anyways, for me, "Tears Are Falling" is what I love about it is the opening guitaring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it goes into that meow, 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 meow,
Yes.
meow, meow, you know, that is such a killer riff. I mean, that's ear candy to me. Like that just pulls me in. I mean, yeah, you know, good point. You know, it's like the lyrics are about, you know, breaking up, romantic, blah blah, you know, all that stuff. The tears are falling, but the guitar, the song has got a bite. It's got a crunch. Good vocals, good chorus. I think it's Stanley. He wrote the song by himself.
That's what I was going to say. You'd think Desmond Child helped him, but he didn't.
And you know, I don't know if you remember the video for this, for the Tears Are Falling. It's kind of like they're playing on almost like a remote island. It's almost like Gilligan's Island minus the Gilligan or the skipper and the stoned out Gilligan. It's just them, and you know, they're posing and stuff. And the best is right at the beginning of the guitar solo in the video. You see Paul Stanley swinging on a vine across the stage, and a volcano behind Eric Carr goes boof. I had to rewind it about 10 times. It's so freaking
doing it Ted Nugent.
Yeah. But you know what? This song, Tears Are Falling, should have really pushed Asylum over the edge, because it's a well-crafted rock tune. And
it is.
Yeah, you know, and for it being what, the seventh song in the album, and it's the strongest track, and there's some other good ones too. That's saying something. So yeah, kudos to you, Paul.
You could say that's a weird placement actually for arguably the strongest song, but anyway,
yeah,
is what it is.
Totally. So we move on to the last Gene song on the album, and that is Secretly Cruel.
It's got it's got a cool guitar intro and cool guitar riff, I think. Has almost I wrote a poor man's Stones vibe to it. If the Stones played with heavy distortion. But again, his lyrics I just wrote. But again, Gene leaves nothing to the imagination with the lyrics. Although he doesn't seem to mention age, so that's okay. But yeah, it's a pretty good song. It's nothing super original, but it's catchy. It's a decent song.
Cool. You know, I like it. You know, it's just it's that crazy thing I would call the ear candy. You know, I just take the lyrics and whatever out, but it's just that the way he draws that chorus. She's secretly cruel. You know, nobody's fool. Yeah. You know, like it's just like, to me, I always got sucked into that stuff. And
he's crooning.
That's it. The demon is crooning. So yeah, you know what? A pretty good Gene track. And for his songs on here, they're actually pretty good. So the album ends, well, the second last song on the album is Radar Love, written once again by Paul Stanley and Desmond Child. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking that Stanley was really trying to be Led Zeppelin and trying to be Robert Plant, trying to write another Black Dog.
Yeah.
It seems so obvious.
Yeah.
It seems so obvious that it actually ruins it for me a little bit, actually.
You know, all things considered, buddy, and I would put this as almost a skipper. You know, like it's just, it's like you said, he's trying to do Zeppelin, and it's just kind of not really working. So, you know, you just go from the high of Tears Are Falling, you know, to
you start actually crying.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. So the album wraps up with the infamous All Night.
Well, it's infamous, all right. Actually, you know what? When it first kicks in musically, it's pretty cool. Like it's got for an 80s, you know, I hate the term hair band, but that kind of hair metal kind of song, it's got a cool guitar riff. It's catchy as hell. And right up until they say, even the chorus is catchy as hell. And I think the worst part isn't even that they say it the once when they say all night. It's that they go into parts where they go, It's like enough.
Yeah.
So that and the part that kills me is like I can't believe they needed Desmond Child to help them come up with that lyric.
Yeah, but you know what the crazy thing is?
What's that?
The crazy thing is, if you go on their YouTube channel, that video has been watched 5.5 million times.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
If,
I'm sure in concert it probably went over big. Like it was probably like a poor man's rock and roll all night.
And that's the thing. I mean, it was obviously a concert tune because I could just see the lights strobing out to the crowd.
Yes.
And whatnot. Yeah, I agree with you, man. Musically, it's good. Even Stanley's lyrics during the verses into the pre-chorus. It's just the chorus. It's just like, even back in '85, I was like, oh, come on, guys, like really, like. So for me, the album loses a bit of steam towards the end of the record, but generally, it was a good revisit. But I got some Asylum. I know you can't see it because I don't want you to see it. I want you to hear it. Back when COVID shut down the world, I went on Amazon and bought some books. And this is one of them I got, written by a fellow named Julian Gill. And the guy is the ultimate Kiss historian. He wrote this book called Kiss on Tour 2020 edition. It's every single Kiss date that they ever played right up until when COVID shut them down. And he goes through each tour, each city they played, the set list. He has reviews from actual newspapers. It's a very, very well documented book, and it's huge. It's like 600 pages. And Gene and Paul don't want anything to do with it, but I'm speaking as a fan. If you're a geek like me that likes to read the stats, the tours, the reviews, he has concert ads in here. He has a bunch of stuff here. I'll just look it up, see if we can see anything. Okay? And of course, I picked the page where there's no pictures. Shit, I'm pretty good at doing that, aren't I? Hang on, folks.
It's like Kiss's Guinness Book of World Records. They update it every so many years.
There's one there, an ad for, you can't even see it, from 1990 for Kiss, Slaughter, and good old Winger. But he has a lot of this stuff kind of spread throughout, but ton of info. So the opening acts for the Asylum tour were Black and Blue, Wasp, King Cobra, Blue Oyster Cult, and Kix through various shows. Now, TeeBone going to throw some little quiz time here for you. Little Asylum quiz trivia.
Here we go.
Out of the 10 songs on Asylum, how many do you think they played live on this tour?
3.
They actually played 40% of the album live.
They played 4?
They played King of the Mountain, which lasted a couple shows.
I should have thought of King of the Mountain.
But then they nixed it. They played Any Way You Slice It once, and it was dropped after like the second show.
Okay.
Or after the first show, they just axed it. So they basically did All Night and Tears Are Falling. And there's all the other stuff they never played live. They didn't even play Who Wants to Be Lonely.
Really?
Yeah. Which
the reason I guessed 3 was they had 3 videos in that.
Yeah, that's what you think. Songs. But I guess because maybe this single didn't take off, they just decided, we'll play Cold Gin, or whatever it was. Well,
they do have lots of a classic catalog, so I guess they don't have to worry about that.
True. So they toured and played arenas anywhere from 10,000 seats to 17,000 seats on this tour. They did just North American. I think they did like something like 60 dates. They only did one show in Canada. That was Toronto. TeeBone, what do you think the average attendance was for each show on the Asylum tour?
You want it like in a percentage of like the
No, just throw down a number, like between one person to 17,000. What do you think the average attendance was for each show?
1985, the album did not bad based on the numbers you gave us earlier. 11,000.
5,000.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. So, hey.
Ouch to Gene's ego.
That's what Julian said. And so the thing is, the tour back then grossed $4 million. Okay. But when all was said and done, after they paid the road crew, truckers, the bus guys, everybody, merchandising and all that stuff, you know what their gross, their take home pay was for the 4 of them? $700 grand.
Jeez.
So you cannot tell me that Gene and Paul were not flipping out then. Probably like,
no kidding.
We did all this and da 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 da. So, but I just think Kiss's problem, and to wrap things up, I just think their problem was they were just trying to stay current with the crop of their, and because we were buying it, there was so much music to buy, and bands were starting to take a little bit of their earlier vibe, like Twisted Sister with the makeup, Wasp, and money can only be spread so thin for all us 18-year-olds at the time. And, you had magazines coming at us, and we had, concerts to go to. I mean, and then we're buying all this Canadian rock on top of it. So, so it's like, well, yeah, I guess, I'll catch Kiss on the next tour. And then, some other band comes around and yeah, I'm going to go see them and whatnot. But yeah, it was kind of surprising to read those stats. I mean, it was like, oof, no wonder they had a bit of a, they were having a midlife crisis in their mid-30s. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I felt like at this point in their career, let's say, that they were having trouble with their identity, I think, a little bit. Like when they first took off the makeup, that was like an identity of its own, right? Obviously, the makeup before was identity. Lick It Up comes out. Even Animalize still was pretty good, but this felt like this was the beginning of a decline until they got to putting the makeup back on, actually. If, I'm not a super awesome Kiss historian or a Kiss historian, as you might say, but that's just kind of how I feel about it.
And, in wrapping up with the Asylum part of the show is, I find the production, like you said, I find it decent. I just find the guitars are too loud in this thing, and almost to the point of almost trebly. So, but as a fan at the time, and me, I love packaging. So, I mean, the fact that, they included the lyrics and inside pictures and whatnot. So I'm not going to tell you my score yet, but you know what? It was, looking back at it, it was a better record in some ways than I thought it would be, because I was forced to do a deep dive. Now, speaking of deep dives, this is what we've been waiting for, folks. I've been waiting 40 years.
Someone walking behind me?
Is that Brad Gillis behind you? But
my good pal.
But back in 1985, as I just mentioned, there was so much music coming out that I couldn't get everything. But my pal there, he took the initial challenge, and he bought Night Ranger.
Every time I did it, it was a mistake.
Show's over.
I think I did it 3 times. Where I took the bull by the horns, and you were like, "Oh, I dodged the bullet."
7 Wishes. So, and I remember him being a good guy. He said, I bought 7 Wishes on cassette. And back then we all had dual cassette decks.
Of course.
So I took 7 Wishes, his cassette, dubbed it, and I listened to it. And yeah, it was like, well, thanks for lending it to me. And, you kind of moved on because, and nothing personal against Night Ranger at the time. It's just that there was so much music coming out. I mean, when you're competing in my world with the Iron Maidens, the Judas Priests, the Def Leppards, the AC/DCs, like everything else we were listening to, I mean, it was just, Rush, everybody, Triumph. It was just so much stuff to try and keep up on. So if something didn't really grab you off the hop, it was kind of like, you kind of forget about it. But not anymore, man. This took 40 years for me to do it. And when I was talking Rewind, I thought, man, we are throwing down Night Ranger 7 Wishes. So Ranger released 7 Wishes May 20th, 1985. US Billboard number 10 in Canada, got to 43. 1 million albums sold in the US and no certification in Canada. 10 songs, TeeBone. Batter up. Your batter up.
7 Wishes.
7 Wishes.
Jack Blades. Starts off, interestingly enough, another very small similarity to the Kiss album, but it does start off a little drum intro, nowhere near what Eric Carr did at the beginning of Asylum. But the one thing I talked about with the Kiss that I didn't really know, you really don't notice that the Kiss songs till you hear the voices. I know right away it's a Night Ranger song the second I hear the keyboards come in and drown out the guitar. all the rockers start with a cool guitar, and then it's like, where'd the keyboards come from? Why the? I know what Jex felt like listening to Honeymoon Suite. It's kind of got the same kind of thing going on. But yeah, it starts with some heavy guitars, and then I wrote down here, and then the keyboards soften everything up. Without the keys, it'd be a heavy tune, and I think I'd actually like it better. It's actually kind of a neat song. It's got kind of a gallop to it. I actually made a note here, I think, just to make you laugh. I said if Iron Maiden really softened their sound and got a Jack Blades type singer, they might write 7 Wishes.
We can't be friends no more.
We can't be friends. All right, show's over, guys.
No.
One thing I'll say is I always want to talk about Brad Gillis when it comes to electric guitar, but I never really know whether it's Brad Gillis or Jeff Watson playing. So if I'm saying the wrong name as we go through this, please forgive me. I always thought that Brad Gillis in particular should have been in a heavier band, because the first time I heard Brad Gillis was on your copy of Ozzy's Speak of the Devil, and that's pretty heavy guitar playing. And then I hear Night Ranger, and I'm like, that's the same guy, like, for real. But then you get to the solos, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy can play. Like, that guy's a good player. But again, some of these solos might be Jeff Watson's. I'm not sure. It's got a neat rhythmic thing to it. I think it's a well put together song. I think Night Ranger can write songs. Jack Blade can write songs. Again, the keyboards, without the keyboards, I think it would be a better tune for me. I like the more edge on the guitar, and the keyboards definitely kill that. But I think the solo is really cool. I wrote on here that I think it might be one of the best solos on the record. I really, kind of noted the guitar solos, because it seems like they give always fairly lengthy solos in most of these songs, like even the mellower songs. I think it's just fair game to let the guitar player have his moment to stretch his wings and give her. But yeah, it's a decent opening tune for Night Ranger.
Yeah, I agree. I basically agree with everything you said. Jack Blades, I mean, if you see the guy now, Jack Blades, I mean, he's one of those guys who just hasn't aged, and he's like 70. I had to wiki him, and it was like, dude, 70? Like, I guess all these guys are getting to be 70. Yeah. There's some guys who pull off looking 70 young, and he's a young 70. But you know what? On this record, 7 Wishes, he's got a good vocal. He's a good songwriter. I mean, he's basically carrying the load for basically all their records. But the one thing I noticed, TeeBone, is you look there, can you see 7 Wishes? Right? And then you flip it over to the back cover, you can't probably see it. Shit. They spell 7 SEVEN for the song.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, look what I paid for this record.
7 Wishes.
How could I not buy it?
Wow, that was like a message from above.
Yeah, it was a sign. But yeah, good opening track. So Faces, I'll start off with Faces.
Sure.
I like that opening vocal with the synth. And I think that's Kelly Keagy singing it. And
I think so.
Faces, I like the opening of the song especially. You know what? It's a good album. I mean, it's a good song, and I agree with you. The guitars on this record, it's Brad Gillis, man. That's why I followed him into Night Ranger, especially when we all bought Dawn Patrol and Midnight Madness, because it was the work that he did with Ozzy. So you figured, okay, this guy's going to Night Ranger. He must be a rock guy, right? He's going to be a rock. It's going to be a rock guitar album. And that's where I agree with you, is that once the keyboards come in, they kind of just, they bring up the guitars during the solos, but during the rest of the songs, it's very keyboard driven, a lot of it. And, so for me, I think start off 7 Wishes album, first 2 songs, yeah, they're pretty good. Better than I thought.
Faces for me, the keyboards don't bother me as much, because I think the keyboards actually kind of suit the song and carry the song. Whereas in 7 Wishes, I feel like the keyboards are just obliged to put them there because they have a keyboard player. You know what I mean? Like there's a few songs like that. Yeah. The more rocker tunes, it's like, could the keyboard player just learn to play rhythm guitar and just join you guys a guitar? Or could you just lower them down a little bit? But this song for me has a crazy Styx vibe to it. And I said, I wrote that at the beginning. It sounds like Dennis DeYoung is pissed off. He says,
yeah, Mr. Roboto.
But yeah, I also wrote that unlike Kiss, I have a hard time knowing listening to the songs whether it's Kelly or Jack singing. So I went online and found what I believe to be the correct, and they more or less alternate, but there is back-to-back Kelly songs and back-to-back Jack songs later on, according to what I found. But I find their voices aren't that distinguishable from each other. Like they're not that different. Not like Gene and Paul. Like Gene and Paul are totally different.
Yeah, totally. So what are you thinking about 4 in the morning?
4 in the morning came without a warning. I kind of like the story behind it, where he's apparently actually woke up at 4 in the morning and wrote the lines, "Can't take anymore, can't fake anymore. Such a hard time loving you. I feel bad for whoever he was with at the time." Because if that's a true story, I was like, hey.
The tears are falling.
Yeah. Another song though, where the keyboards like kind of suit the song because it's kind of a ballady song. It's kind of mellow, like it kind of fits. So it's a well crafted song. I mean, I've made some notes in here where I think Night Ranger actually does their best songwriting work when they're writing a mellow song. Like they sometimes when they're trying to write a heavier song, it almost sounds forced. Like later on, we'll get into this boy needs to rock. Like it's a decent song, but I feel like, are you just putting the word rock in there because you're trying to write a heavy song? Like I feel like they really naturally write ballady melodic music. They don't write riff music. Like they have a vocal melody and then they build the music up underneath to support the melody. Like, you know, not like Van Halen, AC/DC, where they write cool musical riffs and music and then fit the lyrics on top. I feel like Night Ranger mostly, and I could be totally wrong, and if we're ever lucky enough that Night Ranger ever checks out your podcast, I hope they comment somewhere or shut us down, one or the other. But I really feel like they base a lot of their songwriting on vocal melody, and I mean, lots of songs are written that way. But me as an older guy now, I appreciate some of these mellower songs probably more than I did at that time. But for that reason, I kind of like the tune. It's a well crafted, but it's more of an easy listening type tune.
You know, and that's the thing. I mean, a lot of like the songwriting workload was on Jack Blades. I mean, if you go through all the Night Ranger stuff, the 80s, they put out 4 or 5 records in the 80s. He's basically like 95% the guy writing all the songs, maybe even a higher percentage. And, you know, I always found that there must have been just a shit ton of pressure on these guys. Like when I think of that, when I think of a guy like Jack Blades writing all the songs, I'm thinking of guys like Janie Lane of Warrant and Tom Kiefer of Cinderella. These guys wrote all the songs. So, you know, think about these guys that when they come off the road, they're burnt out. You know, they've done like, you know, 200 shows in a year. And then, you know, the guitar player in the band or the keyboardist says, you know, I just bought a new house. We got those songs coming along, man. We got to, you know, kind of get on the road and get something out, you know, like the record company, you know, we need hits. You know, I just couldn't imagine the pressure. So, I mean, who knows, you know, like what these guys were trying to stay sane. I mean, because they're basically the bread and butter for a lot of these bands, like the single songwriter guy. So, you know, so when I think of 4 in the morning, you know, it's a good Jack Blades tune. I mean, it's like you said, it's like a lot of the songs, you know, I think the albums would have been heavier if Brad Gillis was writing all the tunes. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Jack Blades, I mean, you can see why he formed the damn Yankees with Tommy Shaw and the Nuge back at the tail end of the 80s into the early 90s. I mean, you know, he probably just needed another creative force to work with because he was probably just fried, you know, carrying the 100% of the workload. You know, songs don't hit big. Hey, man, our bank accounts are starting to dip. We got to get hits. We need hits, you know, so. You know, but, you know, 4 in the morning is a good track, you know, like I get it. You know, it was probably a decent selling single for them, but the next one, I Need a Woman, that one kind of falls flat for me. So I just find it lackluster, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't. I just wrote it's just a mid song for me. I mean, the intro is kind of neat. Brad Gillis is trying to make some Eddie Van Halen guitar noises there. He's making all these neat little sounds, and it's got a heavy groove. But yeah, the song it's like, I feel like maybe I should like it more because it's a little heavier, but I don't. It's just a mid song for me.
Yeah, fair enough. And the next song, Sentimental Street, you know, these kind of songs kind of drove me bonkers back then because it was these bands that were playing that game, just like Sister Christian ended side one of Midnight Madness.
They were trying to write
Night Ranger does this. I mean, even as much as I love the two Vandenberg albums, the debut, self-titled, and Heading Out for the Storm, Vandenberg did the same thing. Burning Heart at the end of side one, and then the Heading for the Storm. Damn it, Different Worlds was the same kind of balladish thing at the end of side one on both records. And you know what? I was 18 back then, and I figured this shit out, and I'm like, come on, guys, really? So, but I'm thinking that way in 85, but in 2025, I think there's outside forces pushing Jack Blades to saying, hey, we need another one of those Christian
for sure.
Even now, I think even, could be wrong, I think the drummer, Kelly Keagy, wrote Sister Christian.
Well, he sang it, but yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't go back and look at the credits.
I think he actually wrote it, but Sentimental Street, I mean, yeah, I just never bought into it. You know, I get it. A lot of people liked it, and it probably helped push the album to 1 million because it was a ballad, and some ballads help sell albums and whatnot. But it really wasn't for me. What are you thinking?
Well, I don't like the huge keyboard intro. Like, it sounds like you're about to hear a show tune or something. And then once it settles into the piano, I don't mind it. It's a very melodic, well written song. I do feel though that they were really chasing the success of Sister Christian, and it fell a little short for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I noted it here. I think I said it earlier too, but Brad, I don't know if it's Brad or Jeff, but whoever's playing lead guitar on the mellower song seems to really be good at picking their spots. And I said they're almost got like a Neil Sean vibe where they can really pick their spots well in very melodic tunes like this to play really nice sounding leads. And actually there's a spot in the guitar solo. Actually, this solo actually is pretty good too. And I know I'm going on about a song we both think is kind of mid, but there's about a 4-second spot in the middle of the solo. I think I actually wrote down the time being like 2:52.
Wow.
It says where he plays a passage that is so reminiscent of the November Rain solo. It is kind of crazy. You got to go back and listen.
Clickbait.
You got to go back and listen to it. Sentimental Street is November Rain. Put that on your clickbait.
Oh, wow. The gauntlet is thrown. That's awesome. Yeah. You know what? And that's awesome. Shit, I don't know what to say to that. Other than that, Jeff Watson and Brad Gillis, man. I mean, they did some. The thing I liked about Night Ranger is this. You had Journey with one guy on guitar, but Night Ranger had the similar style of music, but they let each guy have their solos. You know, even in songs like dueling solos. One guy plays the first half, the other guy is almost like, you know, a contemporary Judas Priest kind of thing. Like
is that how they did it? I don't even know.
I think so, because some of these solos actually sound a little long. So I don't know if they're.
That's probably why. Maybe that's why they're so long. I noted that they were all pretty long.
But I thought that was kind of a cool vibe, which kind of I guess would lead us into This Boy Needs to Rock.
Jack Needs to Rock.
Jack.
I have it as Jack singing this song. I had it as Kelly singing the last song. I don't know if that's right or not. Even though Jack right. probably was the main writer of it. I think Kelly's gets a bit of a credit maybe because he sang it. I wrote finally an up-tempo rocker on this album, but then the keyboards kill the vibe a bit. Like when the riff first kicks in, you know, it's got some edge to it, and then the keyboards kick in, and it's like, all right, there they are.
Yeah.
Not an amazing chorus tagline for me, but it is 1985, so I should keep that in mind. This Boy Needs to Rock. It's a decent song. Like it is probably the most up tempo song on the record. I can't think of anything else that competes with it tempo wise. And another fairly lengthy and good solo. Again, not sure who did it. And then there's some more instrumental and soloing at the end. So kind of a fun listen. Not great, not bad.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. I mean, it's a good opener for side 2. You know, especially after you get off of Sentimental Street. You know, you
Yeah.
kind of rock things up a bit with This Boy Needs to Rock. You know, I'm like you said, it's, and I have even written in my notes, it's a good track. You know, it probably would have worked live totally, which I'm sure they probably played it. And
Agreed.
good soloing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
good guitar work in it. What about I Will Follow?
This for me might be the weakest song on the record. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else would agree with that, but for me, this one just does the least for me, moves the needle the least. I just said song doesn't really grab me. Verse plays out, but the bridge and chorus are a little more catchy. Actually, yeah, the verse is really kind of, I don't know, something about it doesn't fit for me. There's a pretty cool heavy part after the solo before the final verse. That's kind of cool, but yeah, it's so for me.
You know, and that's the funny thing you say about the verse. The verse is what I like best about this song. So
hey, it's unscripted, folks. It's
yeah,
unscripted.
that's right. Yeah, and you know, and that's the beauty of this show. We don't talk beforehand our thoughts on these songs, but I find it a catchy, sappy chorus. Guess I can kind of get hooked into that kind of thing now and then, but the rest of the song is it's okay. And you know what? And before I forget to mention, when I first listened to this album on the Apple Music, the first thing I got out of it after I went through all 10 songs was these were all made for MTV videos.
Yeah.
You know, like I could have seen a video for each of these songs, but you know, I'm kind of getting them ahead of myself here. But that's just, to me, it just sounded like an MTV kind of rock album for 1985. What about Interstate Love Affair?
Interstate Love Affair. This is one spot where I think it's actually kind of some neat interplay between the keys and the guitar. Like the keys in this one they kind of serve a purpose in there, I feel like, and creates kind of this, it's a very 80s kind of a groove with the keyboards and the guitars and stuff. And actually don't mind the tune. It's kind of up tempo. It's not as up tempo as Boy Needs to Rock, and I kind of like the chorus. The chorus is kind of catchy for me. It's not maybe super creative, but it's like I don't know. I kind of find myself liking that chorus.
Nice. Yeah, you know, I agree with you, man. It's you know, it's a rock it up track, and you know, I could have totally seen it as another MTV video-ish kind of song.
For sure.
You know, it's not a bad track. Now, guess who showed up on the next track? Night Machine.
I think I know.
Okay.
Tommy Lee and Vince Neil.
Vince Neil. They knew there was a party going down with the Night Ranger guys, so they showed up. Welcome to the Night Machine. What do you think?
He was a few months sober from knocking off where Razzle. He'd show up at a Night Ranger party.
Wow.
Sing some gang vocals, and I'm off here.
There's another clickbait title right there. Wow.
Actually, I feel like I want to like this song more than I do. I actually like the gang vocal at the end that I assume is where Tom and Vince are adding to it. Is kind of neat. I wrote that it actually sounds more like something Kiss would do, like that. Welcome.
Yeah.
That sounds like it could have been off Creatures of the Night or something.
Yeah,
but,
true.
But yeah, the song, the chorus, in the main chorus of the song, for some reason, it just feels like you're building up to it, and it should be more than that. So it's like another kind of mid to okay song for me.
And there we have it again, folks. Another Night Ranger tune where I actually like the chorus. Yes. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good track. I mean, it's got 80s written all over it, and you know.
Well, the whole album does, really.
Yeah, the whole album is 80s written all over it. But yeah, you know what? I think the chorus is actually for me the money shot of the tune. So there we go. So the album Hey, that'll be another rewind. Wraps up with Goodbye, another ballad.
I have it. Kelly sings this one, I think.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, another melodic song. I just wrote. Night Ranger seems to do melodic songs pretty well. I actually find myself really liking this song. I don't know. I like the lyric. Yeah, I was never very good at saying goodbye or however it goes. I said it's almost a very relatable lyric, and it's suitable as an album closer, obviously with the name Goodbye. You think it's over, and then they come back in with Brad Gillis or whoever on guitar kind of comes in, gives you one more shot in the arm, and then they give you a few more goodbyes as they fade out. But I guess I'm a little bit of a sucker for some of this sentimental shit, and no pun intended based on the song title on this record. But yeah, I kind of like this song.
Yeah, I find it better than Sentimental Street. But
I
you know
do
what?
too, actually.
It's just, these kind of songs just weren't my jam. And, but if I had to pick between the two, yeah, it's a good way to end the album. Goodbye. I will add that, the production for me on this record, it's flat. It doesn't pop out at you. When I think of albums from 1985 that had some pop in them, go back to 84. I mean, I'm not comparing these two records. I'm comparing the sound of the records. Listen to Crocus, The Blitz, the production of Fairburn and Rock, right? Listen to Honeymoon Suite, Big Prize, right? Listen to those. Listen to a Mutt Lange, or I think a perfect producer for Night Ranger would have been Beau Hill. I mean, listen to he produced all of Rat records in the 80s, right? And they all sound good. I mean, Dancing Undercover was their raw record, but the debut, Out of the Cellar, Invasion, Reach for the Sky, those three records done by Beau Hill, they have some punch to them. And I think this record misses the punch in the production. I just find it flat. Whereas Kiss is too loud. Night Ranger, to me, it's just the production I think kind of zaps it for me a bit. So
I don't disagree with you. I know what you're saying. Actually, make a good point, and it would have been neat if Night Ranger would have had more success. Would they have had a chance to work with a Bruce Fairburn or a Bob Rock or somebody? Would the guitars finally got their proper place in the mix? And with the drum, and would they have gotten that drum sound? And maybe the songs would have, some of these songs could have benefited from that kind of production for sure.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up and give out our scores, I have to show you this here. Okay. This is the back cover to Seven Wishes. You see it there?
Yeah, I can see it.
See it pretty good?
No, not too bad.
So like the four guys are all wearing aviation gear, but the keyboard guy, he looks like a DEA agent. Like
he didn't get the memo.
He did not get the memo. So I mean, there's a better picture.
That is pretty funny, actually.
Like look at him here.
Yeah, what the hell?
Like they're all.
I'm sorry, but he looks like such a keyboard player.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, like you're
right. Nothing against keyboard
Yeah.
players, but
like you got Jeff Watson, yep. and you got Kelly Keagy at the other end. They're wearing the aviation hats, blades. Gillis has got like the Bruce Dickinson fighter cap on, and then you got Buddy wearing a ball hat and wearing a trench coat. I should almost dock him a fucking point just by that shitty wardrobe choice. But anyways, I have sometimes a little too much time on my hands, but that kind of made me laugh. And I thought, hey,
actually, I really like that. That's pretty observant of you. I like that. Yeah, I had it on cassette. That picture was so small I couldn't make that out.
That's right. We couldn't see it. So for Kiss, what are you thinking out of 10, buddy? Well,
for Kiss out of 10, I don't know. I feel like on my numbers here, I've been really harsh only because I'm thinking, well, if I ever get invited back, and after a few comments, I might not ever get invited back. But I got to leave some space for albums I actually really love. Like these are albums that in 1985 moved the needle for me. Actually, you know what's funny is this might actually be opposite. I think in 1985, the Kiss album moved the needle for me more than it probably does now. And the Night Ranger album might actually move the needle for me more now than it did in 1985. But for Kiss, I was giving it a 6.5 for Asylum. I don't know if you think that's harsh or not. For me, For me, anything 5 or better is something listenable. Anything below 5 would be like kind of almost like unlistenable. But anyway, that's my kind of thinking.
Okay, and what are you thinking on the Night Ranger?
I gave it a 7.5.
Oh,
not sure why I went with the 0.5s, but I couldn't quite go 8, and I didn't want to just go 7, I guess.
Well, folks, I didn't see this one coming, but tonight's winner is Night Ranger. I threw down a 7 for Kiss.
Yeah.
You threw down a 6.5, 13.5.
Yeah.
I threw down a 7. I had to give him 7 for 7 wishes.
Yeah. Actually, I never even. How did I not see that one? This cold I have is affecting my ability to think.
And you threw down a 7.5. And
I should have went 7.7. That would have been awesome.
Folks, for me, this was worth the 40-year wait. Just for TeeBone to beat Gene and Paul. What did I do with that record? I already put it away. I knew this was going to happen.
I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed you got the Night Ranger album on vinyl, actually. But you paid $7. So
actually, the funny thing is, I got all their '80s output on vinyl, and I bet you under or just over $30. Because what they had, Dawn Patrol, they had Midnight Madness, they had 7 Wishes, they had, what was it called, The Big Life, I think.
Oh yeah, that was the one after this one, I think.
And they had, which I would consider the best one, but sold the least, Man in Motion. So they actually had 5 records. And then they kind of combusted. But yeah, this was fun, man. Like, I did not think Night Ranger would win this round.
I wouldn't have thought that either. I thought you would have had Kiss. Like, if I was going to guess beforehand, I would have thought you would have had Kiss significantly higher than Night Ranger, and that would have been enough to throw it over the edge.
I just think that Radar for Love and I'm Alive and the chorus and All Night, I kind of had to dock some stuff because I just thought they kind of lost me. And
agreed.
And Night Ranger, I maybe I should have went 6.5, but I had to, man. 7 Wishes, I had to give him a 7.
That's awesome. I like your reasoning.
Jack Blades, if you're watching,
did it for you, buddy.
Did it for you, man. But anyways, TeeBone, want to thank you for coming on. I'm going to have you on again down the road. We're going to pick 2 albums that got plenty of rotation in our world, and I know you'll be up for the task at hand. So
nice. Sounds good.
It's a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for the
pleasure for me.
And like I said, this was worth the 40-year wait to hear your thoughts on 7 Wishes. I mean, you threw down some good clickbait with Guns N' Roses and Vince knocking off Razzle. People, you don't even have to watch the last hour. You just need to just find that in the Night Ranger section somewhere. Oh man, it's so good. But thanks again, pal, and thanks to everyone out there who's stuck it out and watched the show with us, and watch for future rewinds coming down on the YouTube channel. So if you like what we're doing here, throw down a subscribe. If not, thanks for dropping by. And out of 8 million YouTube shows, music YouTube shows, I'm just another schmuck doing one. So thanks for watching. Later, folks.
Thanks, everybody.